behave normally. I knew you could hear me.
Hello, welcome back to Star Trek Sodium. This week we have Star Trek Next Generation's Season 3 episode, The Most Toys, which is the 70th episode of Star Trek Next Generation and has the criminal mastermind, Kivas Fajo, kidnap Data so that he can be displayed in his private museum. So on to some facts about the episode that you didn't even know. As it was Jerome's last day in Star Trek, he had brought in a large cake to celebrate. He had brought it in the evening before production began so that the other actors would see it when they arrived on set the next day. The problem was that there was still a small hole in the roof that pigeons and seabirds could enter for shelter. When everybody arrived for work the next day for the filming of The Most Toys, they were faced with a massive mess of half-eaten cake and bird poop across the floor and tables. Nobody knew where the cake had even come from, but years later, Jerome would come clean in a lost interview sometime on late-night TV and talk all about it. Star Trek VI, The Unforgiven Country, was filming some of its opening scenes in the Star Trek studio at the same time as The Most Toys. While the Next Generation team were trying to film, flashing lights from the Star Trek VI stage only 20 meters away was blinding some of the TNG team as the beams of light shone straight into their faces on the set. The Worf actor didn't mind the lights going into his face too much, as he knew that he had a part in Star Trek VI, and so gave it lots of respect. But Gates McSomething quickly became agitated and sat on the ground, saying that she wasn't going to finish filming The Most Toys until the production team at Star Trek VI promised that they were going to stop shining their soapy lights at the bridge of the Enterprise D. The actor who plays Kivas Fajo is played with crucid relish by Saul Rubinek, but the first actor to be approached for the part was famed Star Trek stalwart Armin Shimmerman. Unfortunately though, Shimmerman was scheduled to be cleaning litter off of Malibu Beach that week, as it was around the time of spring break, and the beach where Armin reportedly worked as a lifeguard would be littered with rubbish of thousands of rampant teenagers. If this rubbish were left to fester on the beach, it would surely interfere with the health of the beach's fish and seabirds and chickens. The second choice for the part of Kivas Fajo was the small actor David Rappaport from Time Bandits, but after a few scenes had been filmed, he was misplaced, and so Saul Rubinek was brought in to finally be the definitive Kivas Fajo, and that's who we have in the episode. Can you see him? It was halfway through the Hensing production of The Most Toys when Patrick Stewart's gnome came to the studio looking for him. The Picard actor was partway through the first take of an integral scene when he was interrupted. Stewart, the acclaimed Shakespearean actor, prided himself on only needing one take for each scene, and so he also possibly had Rick Berman rewrite his contract to include a one-take clause. This interruption caused the scene to be stopped midway, and Picard walked off, annoyed at the scene being ruined. When asked to restart the scene, he allegedly got hot under the collar and swore at everyone, claiming that this scene would never be revisited, not ever, no matter what. You may have noticed that the character of Varia is particularly attractive. That's because Rick Berman decreed that he wanted the female assistant to Kivas Fajo to be the most attractive woman in the universe, a woman that any red-blooded young man would want a picture of, hanging on their wall, and so Rick Berman's gift to the world was the introduction of the beautiful Varia. Following the production of The Most Toys, partial reports suggest that Marina Citrus, Lever Burton, and Jerome Mincepie went out for a wild night out with Lever's cousin Tim. Tim was celebrating the ending of his film that he'd been making with his friend Depp, and when they all met up, things really turned mad that night. What happened that night can't be repeated, but if it could, it would probably be a tale of 5 people turning up at the Chief O'Brien actor's house, as drunk as biscuits, where they would apparently break in and raid the Irishman's beer and snacks, leaving his toilet in an embarrassing condition. You might have noticed that the Riker actor is in this episode as usual, but that nearly wasn't the case. Each time that the Frakes actor came to the studio, his metal hand set off the metal detectors at the Paramount security desk. As there was a different security guard most days, these would never know about Frakes' unique condition, and so would sometimes ask the actor to strip off, and while filming The Most Toys, a new and particularly vigilant security guard was on duty, wasting over 2 hours of the poor actor's time. It was during the production of The Most Toys that Marina Citrus tried to begin a computer club amongst the regular actors of Star Trek. The plan was that they would congregate together at Lever Burton's house, as he was the only one with a computer, and they would take turns at writing things with the keyboard, which would appear on the screen, just like in the futuristic world of Star Trek. Unfortunately, none of the other actors wanted to return to the computer club after the first week, as they claimed that learning about computers was a thing for the far-flung future and was a massive waste of time. We all know that this episode is called The Most Toys, but what you didn't realise is that the original name for the episode was quite different. A few other names that the script editors went through until they decided on The Most Toys were Fajo's Glory, The Taking of Data, Without Taking, There Is No Honor, Metabertosis, Josephine, Space Kidnap, To Find a Lost Robot, and crucially, and yet least likely, To Find Data When the Crow Bursts. To find the name that the episode finally had, though, one has no need than to look further at the episode name. It's called The Most Toys. Those of you with eagle eyes would have spotted a strange line of dialogue in this episode that doesn't seem to mean anything or be relevant for anything that's in the scene it's in. When the data robot brazenly says to Kivas Fajo, "My belt is rubbing, can you help me?" What has happened is that the line wasn't in the script. It was actually the data robot actor, Spiner, talking to the Kivas Fajo actor about his tight belt between the takes, but the editor accidentally left it in by mistake, and so what we have is a strange line of dialogue about Data's belt rubbing his bum a bit too much. Thanks ever so much for checking out my fascinating facts all about the episode The Most Toys, which is the 22nd episode of Season 3 of Star Trek Next Generation. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time. Don't forget to comment underneath with any facts that I might have missed, even though I think that's entirely unlikely. And hit like and subscribe and this sort of stuff. Typical stuff. I'll see you next time. Ta-ta! Yes, bye.